All right, good morning. This morning we're going to talk about Jesus, a pedicure, and a $1,000 bottle of Creed. Anybody know what Creed is or what a $1,000 bottle of Creed is? We're not talking about the early 2000 band. Can you take me higher? Not talking about that. It's a bottle of perfume. I was looking up expensive perfume, and I guess it's supposedly the second most expensive bottle is $1,000 for one bottle of that perfume. Um, so anyway, I think you probably have a hunch on where I'm going to go with my teaching this morning if you're familiar at all with the story of the woman who dumped perfume out on the feet of Jesus. Happened a couple times, a couple separate instances, actually. If you're not familiar with that. But we're going to talk about one of them. And a $1,000 bottle, I mean, that's crazy, crazy big money for perfume. It's a lot of money for perfume, $1,000 for a bottle. But this woman, it says that it was an entire year's wage. Like you're talking a $60,000 bottle of perfume or something. That's insane. You've got probably potentially her inheritance or the equivalent of that. So we're going to talk about this story, and I'm going to do it from the book of Luke, chapter 7. So if you have your Bible or your app that you want to pull up, Luke chapter 7, I'm going to read from verses 36 to 50 in the message and talk about it. Okay, it says this. One of the Pharisees asked him over for a meal. He went to the Pharisee's house and sat down at the dinner table. Okay, so what I want you to picture here is I want you to picture religious people. I want you to picture some of the most religious people that you know, well behaved. I don't know, like a pastor's conference. Maybe these are people that love doctrine, that sit around and talk about theology. There's a group of them gathered together in a circle. I want you to picture very religious people gathered together who know and love the scriptures, who know and love doctrine, who know and love Bible studies, who search the scriptures intensely. Okay, you want to picture these people. Pharisee's house, sat down at the dinner table. It says this. Just then, a woman of the village, the town hooker, having learned that Jesus was a guest in the home of the Pharisee, came with a bottle of very expensive perfume. Okay, she came with her creed. She came with her ridiculous $60,000 bottle of perfume. Who knows how she got it, right? She's the town harlot. So maybe she slept with a super rich guy, and that was his compensation for sex. So she has this super expensive perfume, and she stood at the feet of Jesus, weeping, raining tears on his feet. Letting down her hair, she dried his feet, kissed them, and anointed them with the perfume. All right. I don't know if you're grasping the gravity of this scene. Okay. You have to imagine. I want you to picture, I don't know, Bob and Dave and Ralph, like these elders of your local church sitting around in a circle, elders meeting, local elders meeting, okay? And the prostitute comes in, and she gets down on the floor and dumps perfume all over the feet of Jesus. This looks really sexual or erotic, to dump extremely expensive perfume all over the feet of this man in the presence of these deeply religious people. Now, do you imagine what is going through the head of the prostitute? And then imagine what's going through the mind of Jesus. Imagine what would be going through your mind if you were in, well, you wouldn't be in Jesus's shoes because his naked feet are out there and she's dumping perfume on them. So his sandals are off. Imagine if you're Jesus and she's at your feet in front of some of the most religious people that you've ever met. And then I want you to imagine that you're in the crowd. Imagine that you're a part of the crowd and you're sitting there watching this woman who you know, and you know her reputation. You know how dirty she is, and everybody talks about her. She comes in and gets down at the feet of Jesus and acts like this, and you're going, what on earth? What in the hell is she doing with this religious teacher here in this room? This is unacceptable, dirty, weird. Where is this going? How do they know each other? What's their history? All the talk, all the whispers, all the judgment. Imagine the thoughts racing through people's minds. When the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, if this man was the prophet I thought he was, then he would have known what kind of woman this is who's falling all over him. If Jesus really is the prophet that we thought he was, he would never be okay with this. Do you know what this woman's intentions are? Like, Jesus, she's coming in and like she wants to make you her next client. Like, what are you doing? Not only that, but now we're questioning you, Jesus, that this prostitute is at your feet, acting really weird, and it looks sort of sexual, the way that she's down at your feet, just dumping this ridiculously expensive perfume all over you. That is not that's not dignified. That's not acceptable. Um, if anything, it doesn't give a good appearance to outsiders. Not at all. Jesus said to him, Simon, I have something to tell you. Oh, tell me. Two men were in debt to a banker. One owed 500 pieces, 500 silver pieces. The other 50. Neither of them could pay up, and so the banker canceled both debts. Which of the two would be more grateful? Simon answered, I suppose the one who was forgiven the most. That's right, said Jesus. Then turning to the woman, but speaking to Simon, he said, do you see this woman? I want you to see her. I want you to imagine that you're in the room. I want you to imagine the scene. I want you to imagine the awkwardness of it. I can't even picture it. I mean, if I were in the shoes of Jesus, or in the non-shoes of Jesus, if I were in the bare feet of Jesus, I would be wanting to explain myself and talk about how I didn't know this woman. We have no history. I want to make sure that nobody thought bad things about me. Here he is. He says this, do you see this woman? Do you see her? Many of you have walked by her. You've seen her on the street, but you haven't seen her. You haven't taken an interest in who she is the way that I have. You don't see her as someone made in my image. You don't love her the way that I love her. I created her in my image. She is my daughter. I love her. I care about her. I have seen her. You've driven by her and you've seen her, but you've never seen her. You've never seen this woman. You don't see her. You don't know her. You don't love her. You don't care about her. In fact, you read all of these texts about God, But here is someone made in the image of God, someone that I love, my daughter, who I care about. And you go by her every day. You've never seen her. You've never seen her. You don't see her. Do you see this woman? I came to your home. You provided no water for my feet, but she rained tears on my feet and dried them with her hair. You gave me no greeting, but from the time I arrived, she hasn't quit kissing my feet. You provided nothing for freshening up, but she has soothed my feet with perfume. Impressive, isn't it? She was forgiven many, many sins. And so she is very, very grateful. If the forgiveness is minimal, the gratitude is minimal. Then he spoke to her. He looked directly at her. It's almost like everyone else in the room disappeared. Jesus looks directly at this woman and he says to her, I forgive your sins. You're forgiven. You're loved. All the guilt, all the shame, all the heaviness, all the feelings of inadequacy just shrunk away, disappeared in that moment. I forgive your sins. I don't care what any of them think. I forgive you. That set the dinner guest talking behind his back. Who does he think he is? Forgiving sins. He ignored them. I love that. I'd like to give an entire series on Jesus just ignoring what people thought of him. I mean, how refreshing, how good is it that Jesus just didn't care? I think part of loving other people is being free of caring what they think of us. We can't love them if we care what they think about us because we're focused on us, focused on ourselves. He ignored them and said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. Gosh, you got to put yourself in the position of, and I think it's fun to do this. I think about different vantage points. You're the woman. What is that whole experience like through the eyes of this sexually promiscuous woman who has a really bad reputation, who the religious people would have seen as scum, worthless, not even welcome in their circles, unclean, dirty, can't even worship with us. And yet she comes in and Jesus is zoned into her. She feels so loved, welcomed, and safe to be able to run toward Jesus, move toward Jesus, walk past a crowd of these religious, arrogant, judgmental, knowledgeable, self righteous people, walk right past them in the room and stand in the middle of all of them in front of Jesus, knowing that she's safe. I'm going to be safe if I go to Jesus. He's going to love me. I don't even give a crap what any of these religious people in this room think, because I know that Jesus will accept me, love me, approve of me, welcome me. He won't turn me away. He won't make it awkward. He won't give me a condescending look. He won't interrogate me or question me. He will love me and accept me and welcome me and draw me in. I know that I can go to Jesus and I'll be safe. And she brings this perfume. Now, like I said at the beginning, you could speculate where did she get this? You know, she's out on the street. Where did she get this expensive perfume that many people would have given as an inheritance? That this is your whole life fortune, right? This is an entire year's worth of salary here, all in this bottle. That the woman shows up and she just gets stupid with it. She just gets stupid with it. She takes $50,000 and just dumps it all over the feet of Jesus. So I have a bottle of cologne. It's $70. It's a actually very expensive bottle of cologne. I get it once a year. I love the smell of it, but just a squirt here and a squirt there. I want it to last all year. When I squirt it, Jackie's like, "Who are you meeting? Where are you going? You're using the good stuff. What are you doing?" Right? So it's the good stuff, and I use it sparingly. I'm very careful with it because I want it to last all year. And it's only it's $70. I mean, that's expensive for cologne, but we're talking $60,000. Now, we're not talking a little squirt, and a couple little squirts of this stuff, you can smell it. Like, oh, I've gotten compliments on that stuff. What is that? That smells great. What is that? Now, if I dumped the entire bottle of it on myself, if I dumped the entire bottle of it on my wrist, if I rubbed it all over my neck, just like splattered this stuff all over my neck, my chest, my arms, and then I came to you be like, dude, that's a little excessive. Okay? Your cologne, little over the top. It says in this story that the fragrance filled the entire room. It was obnoxious. It wasn't perfume, it was obnoxious perfume. It wasn't a scent, it was a scent that took over the whole place. It was outrageous. It got the attention of everybody there. They went, "This is excessive." I mean, to put a few dabs on the feet of Jesus, even that, for something that expensive, I mean, you've got to imagine just a little squirt. That's $500 squirt right there that you put on the feet of Jesus. Now, you dump the entire thing out. That's crazy. That's obnoxious. That's ridiculous. That's insane. I'm going to propose that we really hold back in terms of showing extravagant, over the top, stupid, and ridiculous love to the ones that we love, especially to God. That we give really little tips, but not stupid tips. I'm going to propose that when you go out to eat next, that you don't give a 20% tip, you give a stupid tip. A $100 tip or something like that. Go nuts, go bananas, show extravagant love, go over the top. I think we like to be a little generous, a little loving, a little kind, a little compassionate, but we don't get stupid loving, kind, compassionate, gracious. We don't go crazy in our love and affirmation and appreciation and care and listen and compassion. We hold back. We're sort of soft about it. And I think part of why we do that is we don't want to look ridiculous. We don't want to look what's the word I'm looking for? We don't want to look irresponsible. Why would you be so irresponsible like that? Why would you spend that much money on those people? Why would you give that away to someone who's just going to spend it on drugs and alcohol on the street? That's irresponsible. Why would you love someone like that? And yet you see this woman just getting ridiculous in her love and passion and desire to show Jesus what he was worth. I'm going to encourage each of us that we lose our concern about what the people around us think. This woman that came to Jesus had gotten to the point in her life where she was so desperate for Jesus, she didn't give a crap about what anyone else in the room thought. She walked past every single religious leader there, everyone who may have judged her whole life, everyone who maybe had made condemning statements or didn't welcome her into the room. She walked right past them, not even caring anymore, in desperation to stand in front of the only one who had ever made her feel worthy. And she was willing to do things and to show extravagant love and passion and desire for the one who had captured her heart, and she didn't care what anyone else thought. I think part of our lack of love is because we look around. We care about what the people around us think. You and I get like that too. And I think it causes us to not see people and care for people and love people the way that Jesus saw people and cared people and loved people. So Elise is at this really sweet age as a kindergartner where whenever she gets on the bus in the morning, whenever she gets on the bus in the morning and she gets in her seat, she's looking out the window at either Jackie or I, whoever see her off at the bus stop, and she's going like this the whole time, right? So the whole time, from the second she gets to her seat until the bus is out of sight, she's doing this the whole time, right? Why? Because she loves mommy. She loves daddy. And she doesn't care who knows it. She's like Elf. I'm in love and I don't care who knows it. Right? There's this like desperate, wild love that I could care less what anyone else on this bus thinks, what anyone else on any other seat here thinks, because I love my mommy and I love my daddy, and I just want you to know that I love you. And I'm going to wave to you until you're out of sight. And if you're not waving back, why are you not waving back? Because we love each other and we're not ashamed to show that we love each other. Now, fast forward. Addie's 13. You know where I'm going with this. Could you please not come to the bus stop? That's embarrassing. Nobody's mom comes to the bus stop, right? And so there's this fear of what other people will think. And I don't want to look stupid. I don't want other people to judge the way that I love my mom, and that I look young and immature, and like what is this? This is part of our issue, is that we fail to love people extravagantly and wildly because we're afraid of what other people will think. Many of us would love to love and accept people in the way that Jesus did with this woman who comes and dumps perfume on his feet. But we're so concerned about what everyone else in the room thinks. We're so worried about how that person's going to judge us, or what that person's going to whisper to someone else, or what that person's going to text to that other person about how we love these people, that it causes us to not take action, or to take half action, to love in half-hearted ways, to not be extravagant in our care and our compassion and our listening and our hugs. You know what? Don't give a hug, give a stupid hug. Give a 2-minute hug. Love people. Love extravagantly. Tell them that you love them. Bring out the best stuff that you have. Feast with them. Listen to them. Laugh with them. Now, Jesus said that he came to give life, and to give life abundantly. And yet so many of us, we're not hot or cold. We're lukewarm. We're not wild and passionate and full of love and full of grace and full of the gospel and causing people to ask us about the hope that lies within us. We're stale. We're predictable. Our love is very half-hearted. Jesus says, dump the perfume. I got here, none of you even washed my feet. This woman hasn't stopped kissing them and dumping perfume. And I don't care what any of you think. You think it's weird? I don't care what you think. This woman has a heart. Yours stopped beating 10 years ago, right? How many of us lost our heart? Return to your first love, Jesus said to one of the churches in Revelation. You used to have a heart, but it's gone now. It's missing. So there's this heart issue. Now, when you love people, you will inevitably tick some people off. Okay? When you love people like this woman loved Jesus, or like Jesus loved this woman, when you love people like that, you will inevitably tick people off. What I mean by that is that you will have some people that don't like the fact that you're loving people they don't like, right? So part of what got Jesus in trouble is that he loved everybody. He loved everybody. Now, I dare you to love everybody. If you love everybody, if you show compassion and you listen and you care and you take an interest and you start to see every person as made in the image of God, and you care for them and value them and show them respect, whatever you've done to the least of these, the person that you love the least is an indicator of how much you love God. So if we love everybody, here's what happens. Here's what happens. Why were you hanging out with them? Why were you hanging out with them? The religious people, why are you hanging out with the sinners? The sinners, why are you hanging out with those Pharisees? The Republicans, why are you hanging out with the Democrats? The Democrats, why are you hanging out with the Republicans? Across the board, you've got people from every tribe who judge who you love. And if you love the way that Jesus loved, you will have one group that doesn't like the fact that you are loving and listening to and valuing and sitting with and caring for those who they don't like. In essence, I don't like the fact that you love the people that I don't like. That's what happens. And so when we love people in the ways of Jesus, you frustrate people. That one night you have one group of people around your table, and the next night you have their enemies around the table, and then both of them are mad at you because of the guest list. This is what happened with Jesus. Here's the other thing, is when you love people the way that Jesus loved this woman, other people might feel excluded. They might feel like, oh, I saw that you were out with so-and-so. Why weren't you hanging out with me? Don't you like me? Why wasn't I included? Why wasn't I invited? Why what? And so oftentimes we fail to step out and love people and include people and create environments and throw parties because we're afraid that other people might feel left out or excluded or not loved or whatever else. You've got to get past all of that and just say, I'm just going to love people. And at times people will feel excluded. At times people will be upset that I loved other people. And Jesus dealt with this all the time. Just love people. Just love people. Don't worry about what they think. Don't worry about what the other group thinks. Just look at the one in front of you that God's called you to value, to listen to love. Drown out all the noise. Just care for them. Show compassion for them. Be in the zone. Now, the last thing that I want to say is that I think that this story teaches us that love loses count. Love loses count. So I'll put it this way: the woman who came to Jesus and dumped this ridiculously expensive investment all over the feet of Jesus, and people are saying, I can't believe that she wasted all of that. She wasted all of that. Love loses count. It's not sitting there checking dollar signs all the time. Love isn't constantly checking its watch. Love loses count. Love loses time. You get lost in a moment that suddenly it's 3-4 hours later and you're having so much fun and you love these people that you're not keeping tabs of everything all the time. Sometimes we're such rigid, ridiculous scorekeepers that we can't just get lost in our love and passion for the people that we're with. We get lost a little bit. Lose track of time. Spend a little too much. Have a crazy feast and care for people in ways that make them feel alive. kill the fattened calf, bring out the royal robe, and throw a party with the people that you love. There's a time for fasting, yes, and there's a time for feasting. But I'll tell you what, I think many of us don't do either. We're somewhere in the middle. We've never learned to have a really great barbecue, and we've never learned to just get alone in the wilderness with Jesus. We're super stinking lukewarm, and we walk around just doing regular stuff. And God's called us to a life of passion, of desire, of love, of listening, of dumping out the perfume. And so let me ask you to just take this teaching right now and think about, how is God calling me to get stupid when it comes to loving people? To quit keeping score, to not be so calculated, to move toward people in love, extravagance, to lose track of time, to break out the best appetizers, to prepare your best feast, to hang out into the evening where you aren't even paying attention to the clock anymore. How is God calling you to love people? And who is he calling you to love that everyone else might judge you, your family might judge you, your friends might judge you, but there might be someone in your life that you feel compelled toward, drawn toward, that you feel like God is inviting you to connect with them more. But there's someone in your life that might not like that you're hanging out with them. You can probably think of someone. There's someone that you value, that you feel drawn toward, that other people might not like that you're hanging with them. And lean toward them. Love them, embrace them. Quit, carry, drown out the noise of all those judgmental, hypocritical, arrogant, self-righteous tool bags that are hanging out around you. Focus on Jesus. Fix your eyes. Just like this woman who dumped her perfume out. Fix your eyes on Jesus. I don't even hear the jeers in the crowd around me. I'm so fixed on Jesus, I don't even care. That's where we need to be. Jesus, we thank you for this teaching, this story. I mean, more than anything, it's just a true story of something that you encountered with someone that you loved. And it's a great example of the type of life that you've called us into. Help us to love people the way that you do. Help us to not care about the voices, the opinions, the outside noise, even our own fears and insecurities of looking ridiculous. The opinions of other people about how we're wasting our time with that person. How are you wasting your time with them, spending your time with that person after all they've done to you? That sort of thing. And we get those critiques that are thrown at us. Help us not to care about any of that, but instead have our eyes fixed on you. Help us to love the way that you loved. Help us to spread out our arms. You spread them all the way out to the cross. Help us to spread them out with passion and love. Help us not to be half-hearted anymore. Help us to be hot or even cold, dang it, but not lukewarm anymore. Take a heart of stone and turn it into a heart of flesh. Fire us up again. Bring life into the dry bones. Set your people on fire. Help us not to go through the motions. Help our micro churches not just to do things and be with people, but help us to be with people. You've seen this woman, but you've never seen this woman. Do you see her? Help us to see the people around us, to see them, to hear them, to know them, to love them. Amen. All right. Peace out, my ninjas. I am going to you are able to unmute yourselves and you are